Okay. Oh, what just happened? All right. Any loser, welcome. This is the next installment of Car Talk. I just came up with that right now. Any loser. So today's topic is off-season training for basketball. All right. For people who don't know who I am, I'm the resident Celtics fan, but I'm also a sports performance consultant, specifically basketball. Well, I like basketball, so that's my goal, work with people that work in basketball. Trainers and coaches, specifically. But anyway, that stuff's irrelevant. Off-season training per basketball. All right, so what do we do in the off-season? Off-season is the time in which you, as an athlete, as a basketball player, get better. All right? This is the time, not preseason. Why don't you do it in preseason? You can get hurt, flat out. You can't improve in the preseason. Some people will say, oh yeah, I would just get myself in shape. No. That doesn't happen like that. I'm sorry. Off season is when you get stronger. Off season is when you develop your shooting ability, your offensive capabilities. That's when you develop your game. All right? That is the time. Don't let anyone fool you into thinking, oh, well, I'm just going to work on it the first 3 weeks of school, if you're in high school through college or middle school. Don't let someone fool you. That's how you get hurt, all right? You got double sessions going on, then you want to lift on top of that, and then on top of that, you want to play basketball. All those things at one time, you are asking for some kind of stress fracture or stress reaction. All right, so don't even do it. Okay, Johnny, so I'm not supposed to try to improve during the season or preseason. When am I supposed to improve? Title of the video. You want to improve, streaming, whatever. You want to improve in the off season. Okay, cool, I got it. How do I do that? I'll tell you. First of all, you have to figure out a balance between your lifting and your skill development. I would say, this is just my take on it, you want to go back and forth. All right? Let's say you've got a 16-week off season. I used to do that for my athletes. I put together a 16-week program. You want to split up that time. So ideally, you'd go 8 weeks where you're, I wouldn't say full force, but the majority of your time is spent for getting stronger and faster and better from a physiological standpoint. Then for another 8 weeks, the focus becomes working on your game. That way you can devote as much of your focus and time on those things. Now, if I were to give a percentage of it, I would say about 70, I'd say 60 to 70, maybe high 80s. That would be your focus. And then 20% will be the other thing. Because I don't think you should completely neglect skill development or your training. I don't think you should completely just throw it to the side and just wait. It doesn't work out that way, because you're developing overuse issues when you just continue to do basketball related stuff in the off season, in addition to doing it in the preseason and during your season. That's just too much. So you should be working on the antagonist muscle groups for your strength training during the off season and during that non-focused or basketball skill development focused portion of your off season. Or focusing on skill development or focusing on skill development, 8 weeks where your focus is on sports performance, 8 weeks of like lifting, all right? So for your skill development, shooting with movement, shooting while you're tired, shooting long shots, shooting short shots, layers. You can do whatever you want to do. You can change it over the course of like 1 or 2 weeks, or you can do the same thing. I mean, there's different approaches, and I think it depends on what you're trying to work on. Generally speaking, because in a game, each shot, no matter how many times you shoot it, is different. The circumstances are different. The timing is different. The stress related to it, perceived stress, is different. So I would personally work on conditioning via different movement patterns into a shot, making each shot more complex. Because once you can make stationary shots from, whatever fixed distance on the court is, I think you should leave that in the past and then just focus on taking shots on the move. Whether it's moving before you catch the ball, navigating, picks and rolls and all that stuff. So I would work on that, but then also off the dribble shots as well. So that's what I would be working on, and I wouldn't do as many stationary shots. I'd revisit them just to kind of fine tune your shooting form, but I wouldn't stick with those things. But that's just my thought. All right, you can work on different aspects of defense. You can work on different aspects of offense, ball handling, whatever. Like skill development, that's not 100% my forte. I played this sport for a very long time, so I can speak to it a little bit. But that's my thought. Now, from a sports performance standpoint, from a getting stronger, jumping higher, running faster, things like that, I'll help you out with that. So, in your program, you have to decide what you want to work on. There's different phases within strength. You've got endurance, all right? There's aspects of basketball in which endurance are important. Dribbling a basketball is important for endurance. Staying in a defensive stance, that requires endurance. Being able to have your torso, the muscles of your torso, be strong so that when you're being pushed while you're dribbling the basketball, you can resist that, all right? So you're going to have to get some level of endurance for those areas of the body, okay? Shoulders, they need to be able to tolerate a lot of fatigue. You're going to be using your shoulders to dribble the basketball. It's the in-between component, right? So you need to be able to use your shoulders for long periods of time without them getting tired. So performing exercises that require the shoulders to be active, whether it be isometric, or you have to throw that in there, concentric exercises that involve the shoulders, or eccentric exercises that involve the shoulders, that's going to be very important. Alright, if you have questions on what those things are, again, let me know in the chat and I'll explain it. If you have questions on anything, feel free to just throw it in the chat. Oh shoot, what is it? Why do you just get home and start the live? Well, because I can drive and talk at the same time. Yeah. What? I don't know what that means. But I can talk and drive at the same time, just like someone can talk and listen to music, or talk on the phone. So that's fine. But I digress. Anywho, sir. So if you decide to do endurance, which you should do at least 1 or 2 weeks of endurance, or improving maximum strength, all right? And generally the repetition range for maximum strength is going to be 6 to 12 repetitions. Or you can choose to do hypertrophy, which increases the size of the muscle, which also increases the muscle's capability for performing or improving force potential and strength. The bigger the muscle is, the more potential it has for getting stronger, getting faster, more power, generally speaking. Or you can work on power, all right? Your ability to move a fixed amount of weight faster or with more force, okay? So those are things that you want to incorporate into your off-season program at some point, and you want to try to incorporate as many of those things as you can, ideally. And then the rep ranges are specific antagonist muscle group, which is the antagonist muscle groups are essentially the muscles in the joints that don't get used, or the movement patterns that don't occur during basketball. So when you're, let's say, typically when you play basketball, the front of your shoulders get used quite a bit for dribbling, passing, and shooting. You don't typically use your posterior shoulders as much during basketball, so you would want to train those muscles quite a bit. Also, you don't really use your hamstrings a lot unless you're using it to decelerate, to slow yourself down. But actively, you're not using them. You're using your quads and your glutes to propel yourself forward. He says, "What's up, man?" But you want to train the muscles that don't get used during your sport for some period of time. Ideally, 3 to 4 weeks, or you want to incorporate that at least a couple times throughout a program. Let's say you're doing 3 days a week. For a couple of those days, you want to incorporate at least 2 or 3 of those exercises that are going to be, some people call prehab exercises, but training the antagonist muscle group. Yes, you want to get faster. Yes, you want to jump higher, but you can't focus solely on those things because you create a muscle imbalance. And I did a video on preventing muscle imbalance, and I actually did it inside the gym where I work, so you can watch that. I think I'll release that at some point, so whoever that person is that said, hey, you should probably make a video while you're not driving. Well, I'm trying to be as efficient as possible. I'm not doing anything. I prefer not to listen to any music. And if I can help somebody learn something or understand something, yeah, well, I'm going to do that. Hey, I don't know who that is. Hi. So that's my thought. So you can go about your training in a number of ways. You can do 2 days a week. If you're new to training, you probably want to start off with 2 days a week. If you've been training for a while, you're going to use that to dictate how many days a week that you train. At minimum, you want to do 3 days a week of training. So if you're a high school player and you're a junior or a senior, chances are you're probably going to want to train 3 days a week, if not 4 days a week. If you're a college student and you've been training and this is the off season for you, you should be going at least 3 to 4 days a week. 2 of those days should be speed and agility sessions, preferably on the same day as the strength training, ideally. That way you can time your rest. If you're doing 4 days a week, you want to go 2 days a week in a row, followed by 1 rest day, followed by another 2 days. So how that looks is, or this is one way you can do it. Train on Monday, train on Tuesday, off on Wednesday, train on Thursday, train on Friday, off on the weekend. The rest is going to be just as important as the work. So you got to make sure that you rest long enough so that you can have some time for your body, connective tissue, and muscles to recover. You don't do that, chances are you're not going to be able to improve, and you'll get stress fractures, stress reactions, or some kind of soft tissue injury. So to avoid that, make sure that you're incorporating some form of rest. This is why I said if you're new to exercise, you don't want to overstress the body by working out 3-4 times a week. You start off with 2 days a week. One of those days or both of those days can be speed and agility, and the rest of those days during the week you can do basketball related things. Ideally, you want to do the things in which you're doing jump shooting on the days that you do your training. That way you can try to limit how much stress you put on the hips and the ankles during the off season. But there have been people that do it on the other days as well. So I would let your body tell you whether the stress is too much or if you can keep going. Generally speaking, if you got a lot of soreness in any of the muscles or the joints or pain in the joints, you may want to rest a little bit. So if you go into that workout, you show up to the gym, or the day that you got, your lift coming, you may want to rest a little bit if you feel like the muscles are sore. If you really just got to go to the gym, you use another area of the muscle, another area of the body. So for example, what that looks like is if your quads, your glutes are bothering you a little bit, maybe you do something else. Maybe you go in and you do foam rolling. Maybe you go and you do hamstring work. Maybe you go and you do adductor groin training, or what have you, or you work on your calf. But you try to let that area that's really sore rest and focus on another area of the body. Thanks, man. I appreciate it. Sam Isaiah. Appreciate you, bro. So that's what I would do. If you have any questions, I got 3 people in there. If you got any questions about exercise, let me know, and then I can try to answer those to the best of my ability. But I said, what did I say? I said, in the off season, you want to make sure, I'm recapping, in the off season, you want to make sure that you're incorporating training for skill development for your sport, basketball, and you also want to make sure you incorporate some form of performance training. That's one of part of me wants to just say strength and conditioning. But you want to do both things in the off season. You can split it up, 8 weeks for one primarily, and 8 weeks for the other one primarily, but still doing a little bit of both in both 8-week sessions. I talked about how often you should train frequency-wise, and you're going to base that on your level of experience. If you've never worked out before, then you don't necessarily want to work out 3 to 4 days a week. That's a lot of stress on the body, and you're going to end up with some form of a soft tissue injury, or the precursor to a soft tissue injury if you do too much. All right. You want to incorporate as much rest as possible, because the rest is going to allow you to improve. You look up this phrase, or term rather, supercompensation. There's a depression in the ability to perform after a workout, but then right after that, your body increases and you're actually able to perform better than you were pre-exercise. So that allows you to get better if you can capitalize on that. So that's all I got. If you guys have any questions, feel free to let me know. And until next time, take care, stay safe, and keep improving in basketball or whatever else you choose to do. All right, take care. Peace.